Then we have Frank Turek.
As we all know, Candace Owens is spinning a lot of suggestions that there's all sorts of conspiracies out there about who killed Charlie. If I were to say, I really think Candace Owens did this. I really think she did. You know why? Because Charlie stopped inviting her to the big events. And she thought if she could get rid of Charlie, then maybe they'd ask her to be the head.
And what I found were 5 tactics that make Candace Owens not just convincing, but dangerously persuasive. And once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them.
Frank Turek finally officially responds to the Candace Owens situation, and what he says is absolutely wild. So I'm gonna play a couple clips here to help us understand the situation. I'm gonna give my commentary all the way through, and make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I know we can do it with your help. So thank you so much for all the love and support. Let's get into it.
As we all know, Candace Owens is spinning a lot of suggestions that there's all sorts of conspiracies out there about who killed Charlie. It's fine to ask questions. It's fine to suggest that maybe this happened, maybe that happened, but it's not fine to insinuate that people are guilty of murder or they're in some sort of murder conspiracy unless you have really strong evidence. My friend Mikey McCoy, whom I talked to today, is getting death threats. I get what appear to be death threats. You never know what can happen to you. In fact, before Charlie, these gentlemen were not with me. Before Charlie, we didn't even have a police officer in the back of the room. Why do we need that now?
Wow.
Bible is very clear. You need 2 witnesses to convict somebody. You don't gossip. You don't slander people. Unfortunately, I think too much of that is going on. So far, I've heard that Candace and others, it's not just Candace, have suggested Netanyahu killed him, Israel killed him, Trump killed him, TPUSA killed him, Mikey McCoy, his dad Rob McCoy had something to do with it, the FBI, Egypt. I heard France today. I thought all France did was surrender. Now, let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Unless those possible culprits in Charlie's murder all work together on some grand conspiracy, that most of what is being said about this has to be false.
Right.
Do you see the point? If you're going to suggest all these different people are involved, they can't all be involved. It strains credulity to say they're all somehow involved. Maybe one of them did it. But that means most of what's being said about this is false. And what if the guy who actually has been charged with the crime really did it? Then every single thing that is being said regarding conspiracies, if he acted alone, is certainly false. Now, the trial is probably not going to be for at least another.
We're going to watch a video later by What Do You Meme expose Candace's problem and why sometimes it seems like she's being credible, but really it's just her making thousands of claims all at once. So it's hard to pick apart each one. Just something that sounds fishy, but at the end of the day, there's no evidence for it.
Here, we can't keep spinning conspiracy theories without evidence. People are going to get hurt. So I plead, if you're watching this kind of stuff, or you know people that are, you need to say, hey, it's okay to ask questions. It's not okay to insinuate people are guilty unless you have really strong evidence. In fact, if I were to say, I really think Candace Owens did this. I really think she did. You know why? Because Charlie stopped inviting her to the big events. And she thought if she could get rid of Charlie, then maybe they'd ask her to be the head of Turning Point. And she's bringing all this up, citing all these other people to cover her own tracks. And I really think she's jealous of Erica too. I think she's the one that did this. You know, this all checks out.
Dang.
Would that be fair?
Yeah.
No, it's not fair. It's ridiculous. I have no evidence for it. But I submit to you, that appears to be what she's doing, knowingly or unknowingly, to people for which she has no evidence they were involved. I need to say one other thing about this. Candace makes a big deal of Mikey McCoy turning away and immediately getting on his phone when Charlie was shot. She said there's only 3 possible things you can do in a situation like this. You either run toward the problem, you run away from the problem, or you freeze. Candace Owens doesn't know what she's talking about here. Because these men in these rooms will tell you that when a traumatic event occurs, if they're trained to do something, they automatically do it. I was in the Navy. We had emergency procedures. You practice those emergency procedures over and over again, so when the disaster strikes, you don't even have to think. You just do it. Why did I run to get in the car? Because I thought beforehand, if Charlie ever gets shot and I'm there, I'm going to do whatever I can to help. Didn't even need to think about it.
Yeah, to be fair, if you've been told this, it shouldn't be that hard to just pick up your phone, push a button, say, you don't have to type in the numbers anymore, guys. It's not the early 2000s. You just have to press one button for a phone call. It's not that hard to think about. What did he do? He started getting on his phone as soon as it happened.
Charlie drilled into Mikey, who at the time was only 23 years old, drilled into him. If anything ever happens to me, the first thing you do is call Erica.
Wow.
Why would he run to Charlie when Charlie has 6 guys around him carrying him to the car? All he would do would be get in the way.
Yeah.
Mikey did exactly what he was trained to do. Now, once the trial comes out, we'll find out the truth,
Yeah.
the ultimate truth. But let's not insinuate people are guilty unless you have really, really good evidence. Oh, I have to say this too. Sorry, I just keep going on. But people don't seem to understand how prosecutions work. I mean, you had the case here with Kohlberg. What's his name? Kohlberger. How many people were spinning conspiracy theories about that? And frustrated because we weren't getting enough information from the prosecution. My friend J. Warner Wallace, who has prosecuted many cases, he's a cold case homicide detective. I had him on the show about a month ago to talk about these conspiracy theories. He said the prosecution will never reveal what they have before they have to. Why? Let me just give you one example. Suppose they're investigating a second shooter, and I submit to you they probably are. Why? Because in the trial, the defense team is going to say, did you investigate the second shooter? Yeah, we did. But if they come out and say, we're investigating a second shooter, if a witness comes forward and says, oh, I saw the second shooter, they don't know if that witness really saw the second shooter or that person is making stuff up so he can make a name for himself. In the jury pool, they can't tip off the defense. The prosecution's job is to convict the real killer. The prosecution's job is not to have an ongoing soap opera on YouTube to tell you what they have. That would defeat their responsibility of convicting the real killer. And I can tell you they are tracking down conspiracy theories. Why? Because I was the subject of one of them. And I was the guy in the white hat next to Charlie, who people said, that I was signaling the shooter, which is the stupidest thing in the world, ladies and gentlemen. If a shooter is on a roof somewhere, he can't see me anyway if he's looking through a scope. I mean, here was Charlie. I was about right where Ty is here. He can't see me anyway. And why would he need me or anybody to signal who Charlie Kirk is? Charlie Kirk's the only guy under the tent with the microphone. So the FBI called me.
To be
Said,
fair,
sorry.
it wouldn't be a signal to say like, oh, this is Charlie Kirk. It would be the signal to take the shot. That's what I would think it would be. But it's just wild how so many people have distrust in all of this. To be fair, there's a reason for it. And I'm going to play a couple more videos here to prove that point.
I have to ask you this. I'm so sorry, but were you signaling the shooter? Yeah, I was telling him to steal second base. I mean, why do people believe this stuff? It's ridiculous. So they are checking into conspiracy theories, but they're not going to tell you about it, because if they tell you about it, it defeats what they're trying to accomplish. And that is find and convict the real killer.
Now I'm going to play a video from What Do You Meme. He breaks this down really, really well. So shout out to him. If you want to watch the entire video of this, it'll be in the description. But I think this is exactly what's going on and why so many people are following Candace Owens. You might be thinking, how in the world is this possible? Well, here it is. This explains a lot.
She knows it or not is one of the most effective persuasion formulas on the internet. Her videos on Charlie Kirk's assassination have averaged millions of views, and Candace is incredibly good at one thing: making people feel certain without ever proving anything. So I sat through all 36 hours of her investigation so far, every clip, every theory, just to see what's really going on. And what I found were 5 tactics that make Candace Owens not just convincing, but dangerously persuasive. And once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them. Now, obviously, a lot of people feel deceived and gaslit by institutions, and in many cases, rightly so. But that's not the only thing going on here. If you've ever watched one of our episodes, you'll notice it immediately. The odd footage, the timestamps, things that don't line up, the screenshots that don't make sense, and the random people who suddenly seem suspicious. But she doesn't just give you 1 or 2 of these. Every episode, she throws out more than you can count. Nearly 15 in this video alone, sometimes over 20.
Yeah, it's really impressive, because I'm thinking, how in the world is she finding all of these, and how in the world does she have enough time to do all of this? And that leads me to conclude, obviously, she must have a team doing all of this, because you'll never be able to. And to be fair, she probably has death threats too. According to some news outlets, she is saying that she is fearful for her life.
I say that this is virtually the entirety of her episodes. She gathers anything that could look suspicious, even if it could be random or unrelated.
On 9/4, Akash Patel as far as November and December. Then we have Frank Turek on October 7th. Well, Megyn Kelly.
And with so many anomalies being introduced every episode, at least a couple of them will strike you as strange. And given the sheer volume of her claims, your ability to think carefully about any of them gets drawn out by the sheer number of them. By the time you start to think critically about one date, or rumor, or insinuation, she's already moved on to the next. So eventually what happens is you stop paying attention to the quality of the evidence, and you're overwhelmed by the quantity, leaving you to conclude that there's just simply too many strange things occurring for there not to be something more going on. This can be thought of as an anomaly overload. It's what happens when a flood of speculation starts to feel like evidence, and when the gaps in our knowledge become proof that something sinister is happening.
What's going on here? What are Egyptian military subcontractors doing in the middle of Provo, Utah on the day that Charlie...
See, I remember she brought up saying that everyone is in the military, and everyone who's in the military is in a conspiracy against Charlie Kirk. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And then she's like, who's the most popular YouTuber in the world? Mr. Beast. And guess what? His parents were in the military. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, Frank Turek in the military. This pastor in the military. They're all in the military. But that really doesn't do anything. Just because there's a correlation doesn't mean there's a causation. It's crazy. So here's another example. Remember we talked about Charlie Kirk's security guard and the text messages. If you guys don't remember that, it was just last Saturday. I posted something about Charlie Kirk security guard texted the Utah City Police, and they said that they would have that station covered. They said that they would have a guard up by the entrance of the rooftops, and obviously there wasn't any. So she talks about this here.
People's families are getting threatened, and so people in the security apparatus are starting to speak, and now we are certain. So foremost, jog your memory of what he said, what Brian Harpole said to Sean Ryan. He describes a communication that, and he says it in a very odd way. I can tell you right now, the reason why he describes his communication with the chief of the UVU police in an odd way is because it's not his communication. He's actually presenting a text message between Dan Flood and Chief Long. Take a listen to how he says it.
On Monday before, this correspondence went to Chief Long. Hello, Chief Long. We received this message today from the student group. There is a student roof access pretty close to where CK will be set up at the Utah Valley. The Sorensen Center has a couple of staircases that go up to walkways on the roofs. He comes back, and for edification, the Sorensen Center was the building in front of the Lucy Center. And so he comes back and he says, you want access to the roof. And came back and said, I was told students have access above us. If this is true, it would be nice to either have it controlled access or allow one of my guys to be there as well, if possible. He comes back, and his last correspondence was, I got you covered. What else am I to do? When a command level person from an accredited police department says, I've got this area. Jeez.
Ooh, pick me. So I could confirm to you guys that something else that they could have done would have been to at least walk around UVU when they arrived. They didn't. Never did a walkthrough. And I can also tell you that this is a severe misrepresentation because the reason why he says Sorensen, and obviously many people picked up on this, like Lozzie is supposedly where the student got up on the roof. So why would Sorensen even matter? Well, apparently, and again, I confirmed this with security inside of Turning Point. There somehow happened to be a leak. And so they can't dispute this. But actually, Dan Flood was primarily and only concerned with the flag of halls, which is behind. That's what was behind Charlie. So I'm going to actually show you this, what they're referring to and why he says Sorensen. I don't know if your mouse can move here. I don't know if you're able to do that. It's okay if you can't. But you can see we're up there on the right where it says Sorensen Student Center. Well, there is a way, as you can see, to get down and get across to the walkway. And that's what they wanted to secure. They wanted to secure and to make sure that nobody had access above Charlie's head. And that's why he says the walkway. He knew that, by the way. Obviously, he knew the context of that. It's very strange that he's reading that off of his phone as if it's on his phone and he had the communication. That's fundamentally dishonest. He should have said, this text message happened between Dan Flood and Jeff Long, and here's what it was pertaining to, or he should have showed more, but he couldn't show more. And, Sean Ryan got played. He did, and he should be upset that he got played because they're basically using him to just propagandize the situation and pretend that they're somehow the victims. Something else that is very strange that I was told.
See, there you go. Like, yes, that is very fishy. That is very sus. 100%. But she takes that and says, see, I told you this is all a conspiracy. Everyone is in on it, and you guys should be too. And don't be played just like Sean Ryan. We don't know. We don't know the situation. It's just a very, very sad situation and very, very wild and crazy. But guys, I would love to know what you guys think in the comments below. This is cultural time and moment that I think is very important to talk about. But there's so many things that we shouldn't be caught up in, and we shouldn't always be caught up in conspiracy theories and allowing that to run our life. It's important to look into things, I get, but not everything is worthwhile looking into. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I encourage you to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I know we can do it with your help. So thank you so much for all the love and support. It means the world. Have an amazing day, and God bless.